morning. Hey, I'm Steve Weber. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show, broadcasting on the Spirituality Gone Wild Network and on the American Gumption Facebook page and American Gumption YouTube channel. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being here. Alrighty, today is show number 173. 173. That's a pretty lucky number. And it's Thursday, May 13th. And I have a great guest coming up. Shannie Alvarez will be joining us in about 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes from now. And we are going to talk about her book. And her book is titled We Are One. Here, I'm going to go ahead and throw that up on the screen and let you all see that. We Are One. There it is. Shannie's book, Shannie Alvarez, We Are One. And that'll be coming up in just a couple of minutes. So excited to, whoops, did I hit that twice? I think I'm okay. All righty. So anyway, that's what's happening. And I've got a little bit of a monologue, and my monologue is going to be, nope, that's not it. Here it is. Awakening moment, or moments, I should say. We all, anybody who has gone through their own spiritual journey and spiritual awakening has a moment when they realize, oh my gosh, things have to be different than the way the way they've been. So that's what this monologue is going to be. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute. Alrighty. So what I wanted to do first, though, is I wanted to share with you what's happening tomorrow. So I'm going to do a broadcast, and I've got a guest lined up. Diana Dameron is coming back to the American Gumption Morning Show. She was here about 6 months ago. And what we're going to talk about is the disc profile. Have you heard of a disc profile? It's like, it's one of these personality tests, and it's a way of, identifying you as what your personality is like. And then, but the reason why the disc profile works so well is that it's used in a work environment, and lots of people, the team or the group, will all take the personality profile. And then when you understand who you are and how you operate, and function as a human, then you can also understand how the other people, how they operate. It gives you basically a way to think about how you want to interact and how you want to be with other people. So that's the disc profile. So now I've been teasing this for the last couple of days, the disc profile. And the plan was that Diana was going to reveal what my profile was live on air, and I would find out at the same time. But we called an audible, and she sent me the profile last night. So actually, this is a good thing, because I had the profile, the chart analysis came with all kinds of graphics and explaining things. And so I'll put together a nice presentation. So as Diana and I go through it, we'll be able to, show you some graphics and show you some visuals to help you understand what the disc profile is all about. And I'll reveal tomorrow what my particular profile is. All righty. Very good. So now let's go ahead and jump into today's monologue. And I'm calling it Awakening Moment, and it could be Awakening Moments, because really we end up awakening in our life over many different times. And but there's usually there's like a couple of times where there's like big awakenings and radical change happens. And anybody who's on a spiritual journey always can think back and, refer to what is an awakening moment for them. And so I've got two in my life that I've thought about, and I didn't even think about the first one really, but I'm going to share it with you. And so anyway, back when I was 18 or 19 years old, my parents encouraged me to go on a weekend retreat. And it was funny because they said, hey, we want your brother, my brother Ken, 5 years younger than me. So I'm about 18 or 19. He's about 13 or 14. We want Ken to go, and we're really concerned about Ken. And if he doesn't go, his life may be ruined. I mean, it was like, that was sort of what I heard. And I was like, okay, I'll go. And so, but at that particular seminar or that weekend retreat, I had kind of an aha moment where it really connected with me that my attitude really influenced the way I ended up living and perceiving my life. And so with a positive and optimistic outlook, good things could happen to me. And I embraced that. And I had this aha moment. And I ended up, really for the next 30 years, living a pretty optimistic, positive, a lot of positive talk, self-talk, that sort of thing. And so anyway, the whole Gump years were all under that influence of positivity and positive mental outlook. So that was like my first awakening. Now, oftentimes though, and that's not that little awakening moment certainly influenced me and was a great thing. Now, what happened though is that a lot of times in a person who has like a real spiritual awakening, and I don't think I had a spiritual awakening at that first one, but a lot of times when people have it, there's also there's like a trigger point. There's like a dark night of the soul, or maybe an accident, like a near-death experience, something pretty traumatic that happens, and it kind of like jolts and shocks people. And so there's like this darkness, and then the awakening part is like where you end up seeing the light, and you go forward that way. So in my the first one that I described when I was 18 or 19, I didn't have like a dark night of the soul. I didn't have like a real depression, but I did have like a moment where I went, oh my gosh, this makes a lot of sense. And the funny thing about it is my brother doesn't remember going and attending that. And my parents don't remember anything about it, or, didn't remember anything about it. And so I'm the only one who got any benefit out of it. And I really think they probably wanted me to attend and didn't care that my brother attended. But they tricked me, and it worked. And I'm grateful. Thank you, Mom and Dad. All righty. Now, so anyway, then let's fast forward to I'm about 50 years old. I just had moved to Montana. It's 2008, 2009. And 5 years earlier from that, I had made the decision that I was going to move to Montana at some point. And then in 2006, I said, that point is going to be sooner than later. And I kind of abandoned my initial plan of like working for the next 20 years in California. And I just said, I want to go to Montana. And so I ended up going there. And now it's 2008, and I cut my income pretty radically. And I thought that I could just transfer my skills into the next career challenge or career opportunity, which I really didn't have lined up. And then anyway, the 2008, the stock or real estate market crashed, and I had all my money wrapped up in real estate, and I had no cash flow. I didn't have enough cash flow, I should say. And I ended up having to everything I had been told about, like, if you buy real estate, it always goes up in value. Suddenly all my properties went down in value. And so I had this kind of, financial crisis that hit me, and all of the decisions I had made in the couple of years leading up to that looked like not very good decisions, poor decisions. So the good news is I'm in Montana, and I'm in a place that felt really good to be at. But the bad news was that the plan that I had, it just didn't work out at all. And financially, I was in a world of hurt. And so I was like scrambling and trying to figure out what to do and sell properties, except that properties weren't selling. And the amount that I could potentially get out of the property was significantly less than what I had paid for them. And so there was like a big mess on my hands. And so that shook me to my core, and it made me kind of question everything. And I ended up in 2009 attending a weekend retreat, a seminar. And I was doing that because I was kind of desperate. Like, I got to try something different. What I've been doing, all of the decisions I've made the last couple of years did not at all work out the way they were supposed to work out. And so I ended up, going to this seminar. And during that seminar, I had this aha moment when I really embraced the idea that voice inside of your head, was something that needed to be reckoned with, needed to be tamed, needed to be paid attention to and gotten control of. And so that voice inside your head that chatters and goes on and talks and, tells you all things. And basically that voice is the ego. I was like running on autopilot for the previous 30 years, even though when I was conscious, I was speaking positive thoughts, but when I was unconscious, that voice was running the show. And so the whole idea of the subconscious being like 95% of what you do and the way you operate, and the conscious part being only 5%, I came to the realization that, man, my life is a bit of a mess. And so there was lots of things that I was saying to myself. And now I've since have learned all about the law of attraction and realized now that, my goodness, the things that my ego, my voice inside of my head was saying to me were not very nice and were not being helpful at all. And even though I was speaking positively in the conscious phase of my life, 95% of my life was being run by those programs in the back. And then you open up, you start opening that can of worms, and you start like reevaluating your thoughts and what do you believe and what do you not believe, and everything that you thought you believed, you're questioning. And so, it was a kind of a can of worms. We'll just leave it at that and say that, anyway, that was the awakening moment for me when I went, okay, things have to change. And so it took a long time then. And really, in retrospect, it took the better part of the last 10 years after 2009, 2019. That's when I finally left Montana and said American Gumption is going to be, the next phase. And of course, that's what I'm doing now. And that hasn't fully manifested, but it's on its way to coming to be. And so, the 10 years in Montana was really like a time of awakening and transitioning and learning and reevaluating and looking at all that stuff. So I guess we'll wrap it up by just saying, what was an awakening? I'll ask the question, what was an awakening moment that you might have had in your life when you went, oh my gosh, something's got to change. This isn't working the way it's supposed to work. So anyway, that's that. We'll leave it at that. All righty. Well, let's go ahead and shift gears. We'll close down the monologue section, and we'll get ready to welcome our guest, Miss Shannie Alvarez, who is going to join us. Let's see, where's she at? There she is.
Hi.
Good morning, Shannie. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good. We're it's funny. I always take some inspiration from in the monologue from who our guest is going to be, and you have had a big aha moment in your life and transition, and so we're going to get into all of that and talk about that. We're going to talk about your book, the We Are One, but there's the two things that always have to happen before we get into all of that. Anytime there's a first-time guest, and I'm surprising you, Shannie, because I didn't tell you what these rules are. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. Rule number one is I get to read a little intro and bio on who you are so that our guests or our listeners will know who you are. Okay. That's an easy one. You don't have to do anything for that. And then the second one is I play a song, and coincidentally, the name of the song, or the name that I call it, is the First Time Guest theme song. So anytime there's a guest, we play a little bit of a song and welcome them to the show. So so you just have to sit back and enjoy the next minute or two while all that happens. Is that cool?
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
All righty. So Shannie Alvarez is an inspirational speaker, author, and nurse. As a nurse, Shannie has helped people who have struggled with mental illness, disease, and addictions. She previously worked in palliative care and now works in cardiology as her specialty. Hey, you're like getting close to the heart now, aren't you? I love that.
Physically and spiritually.
Yes, physically and spiritually. Excellent. So Shannie's book, We Are One, was written to inspire others with her message of unity and love. She wants others to learn how to love themselves. She uses biblical principles and her faith in God to teach and describe her own journey of self-forgiveness and overcoming her fears. She expresses herself through poetry and writings that feel like they are inspired downloads from source or from God directly. Shannie ultimately believes that God is love, She encourages readers to trust and believe in the goodness of people in this world. Understanding God does not happen overnight. Learning who God is will take you on a journey to learn who you are. I'm going to repeat that because I love it. Learning who God is will take you on a journey to learn who you are. That's exactly what happened to me in 2009. I like went, oh my gosh, who am I? And it took like 10 years and, the better part of 10 years to really kind of get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go out into the world again. So Shannie lives in Ontario, Canada, and we met recently via Gwen Peterson's group, Spiritual Communities Network. And the reason why I wanted to mention Gwen Peterson is I interviewed her a week ago and talked about Spiritual Communities Network last week, and that's how you and I met. And then Gwen is going to come back in a few weeks, and we're going to talk specifically about the work she's doing, with her clients. So it's all, we're all connected. There's no coincidences.
For sure.
Life is working out the way it's supposed to. So yeah. Shannie, welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah.
And let me play that song, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll just have a conversation the rest of the time.
Awesome. Okay.
Have you ever had a marching band welcome you to a show before, Shannie?
Never. That's a first.
All right. Well, I was thinking about this. It's the show is American Gumption, but there was a time right before I launched the show that I went, oh my gosh, maybe I got to call this Global Gumption. Maybe American Gumption is too narrow and too tight. Because we have an international guest with us today. So welcome. And, we're glad that you're joining us. And I know the Canadians and the Americans have lots in common. And so we are really neighbors to each other. So welcome.
Thank you. So
you wrote the book, We Are One. My goodness. Where do we begin? Where should we begin with it? What was your, I know your journey of awakening started about 25 years ago, and we'll get into some of that, but what was your childhood like? What did you, what was the foundation that you because we all get this foundation that, we're implanted or imprinted with, what was your childhood like? Was it growing up right in Ontario?
Yeah, so I haven't really moved around much. I've stayed pretty much where I am right now. It was pretty, usual. I have two younger sisters, and I guess growing up, there was a high standard in the house. I'm the oldest. I had my two younger sisters that I was responsible for, and there were a lot of demands placed on me. It was a very strict home. What happened was, I think, for the most part, I had these, ideas of perfection and life being a little bit more less dark than I thought, and so once I got out into my own into the world, I think I found things a little bit overwhelming. And that kind of brought me into a bit of a depression. I ended up, by the time I was 25, that I felt like I just couldn't cope with things very well. I was trying to fit in with the world, but really just trying to have a sense of who I am. And I just wasn't doing a very good job. So, of course, I got myself into, I actually became kind of rebellious about life, and, did the whole, party scene, and tried to fit in that way with, my friends and things like that. But everything I tried to do to try to fit in, it just seemed like I was just, getting myself more and more away from myself, and not liking myself. And so I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had, what I wanted to be. I did want to do something good in life, and be something good, but I just couldn't stick at one thing, or understand what to actually, I had no direction, and every time I'd start something, and I'd be doing really well at something, all of a sudden I'd think, oh, no, I got a better idea. I'm going to do this instead. And then that would flop out on me. And all the whole thing was really, is I was really trying to identify with who I am, and feel, find that comfortable contentment place. And I just was not, I was very restless. And by the time I was 25, honestly, I think I just completely burnt out. I was, I'm actually, like, thinking back on it, am pretty amazed at myself, at how burnt, how bad I got. I was in a real deep, dark depression, and it had been brewing for years, but at that time too, it wasn't really so spoken about like it is today. And I did question myself a few times through it all, but kind of just brushed things off like I'm having a bad day, and I just kept on struggling through it. But you just found life to be a big struggle. It just became too much for me.
So
Yeah.
you came from this, it sounds like a relatively stable environment, except that it was probably a bit, constricting, and you probably were, you had to follow certain rules, and you weren't encouraged to explore your creativity as much. And then you get out in the real world, and you're kind of like exploding with trying to try new things, but nothing seems to be working out. And it was that frustrating period for you. Is that kind of a is that
Yeah. Well, I had parents, especially my dad, who has, like, over the top high expectations for me. Just really, really, like, a lot of responsibility for me, a lot of expectations. And so I struggled with that. Yeah, I guess it just got too much by the time I was 25.
So
And
what happened at 25? I mean, what was that moment when you kind of went, oh my gosh, this can't continue the direction it's going. Something has to change. Did you have like a moment when you went like, okay, this is it. We can't continue, and was there like a dramatic moment?
it kind of just, it's like I just got so run down and so tired. It wasn't even, something you could foresee, that eventually I just kind of, I stopped taking care of myself. And I went completely like, I don't care. you know, and yeah, like I was raised with good morals and you know, to do something good, and I had that within myself, but I just didn't know how to obtain it, and so
So
yeah, that's how I found it. I found myself just eventually just not taking care of myself, and not wanting to live. Yeah,
and
yeah.
what was like a light bulb moment when you went, okay, we gotta like right this ship. We gotta like turn this, we gotta turn the car around. We gotta go in a different direction.
So it didn't happen quite like that.
Hmm.
You know, I think because you know, it was just everything with me has just been very kind of gradual. Like it's almost like I feel like I identify really well with what's going on in the world, and the world seems to be kind of mimicking what I've been through in my personal life. It's this darkness that just is brewing and brewing and brewing, and it's, you know, all of us here in the world are just sort of, you know, we're just like, okay, this is just another thing and just another thing and just another thing, but eventually, like a volcano, it's just going to go, you know.
Yes.
We can't take it anymore, you know.
I
uh,
love your analogy that's kind of that's what's going on in the world right now. We're in a moment of darkness where there's something brewing, something's changing, something it cannot keep going the way it's going. So
well,
so you found yourself though back in that moment, and but that was somewhere around that point you kind of reached bottom, and then you started getting out of it. And I know from what we talked about earlier, it was really about a 20-year period that you went through where you just kept evolving and growing, and you did a little bit of writing early on, and then fast forward all the way to like just a couple of years ago, like you suddenly went, oh my gosh, I've got to write this book, and it just sort of happened instantaneously, or like relatively speaking in a short period of time. Is that about
like honestly, yeah, even writing the book We Are One, I had absolutely no intention. I actually had no intention to even write. I mean, all growing up, I didn't really feel like I could do anything like this. You know, I failed grade 3. I failed because of reading comprehension, you know, and writing skills, and English was always my poorest subject because my communication skills were just none. I was a very, very, very quiet kid. And so, you know, there was something definitely God was trying to bring out of me, you know. And what that was is my voice, you know. I started off my book with that poem Words, which
Mhm.
I wrote in like seconds. You know, it just seems like it had been there. It's in you. It's in you. All of this is already in you. It's just in the darkness. You know, you need to learn how to tap into that part of yourself. And God is putting all of it, you know, it's not like you know, all of this bad stuff that's happening, it's trying to teach us something deeper about who we really are. And until we get it, it's just going to keep on happening. You know, the bad stuff is trying to teach us something about something beautiful about ourselves, something about who we truly are. So for me, you know, even like when I hit 25 and I just said, forget it, I quit. I basically quit on life. I've had enough. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna. This is life. You know, like you know, kind of like what you were saying. You're in the real estate market, and you think you got all these big great ideas, and then all of a sudden everything just poops on you. You know, Well, it just seems like everything just kept on pooping on me. Everything I'm trying just like, it's not working. This road's not right. That road's not right. Like, where do I go? Well, that's going to be right. You know? So it's like, fine, I quit. That's it. I'm done. I wasn't raised religious, but I had this idea like, okay, things are not good, but if I kill myself, is it going to be better or is it going to be worse than this, right? So I didn't really want to do that. So I just kind of went, I'm not doing nothing. And I just kind of, until my mother found me some months later in the middle of, she had no idea where I was and whatnot. And basically picked me up off the floor, barely recognizing me, and drags me into the hospital. There, of course, they diagnosed me with things that are more wrong with me, which only makes me feel worse. And then they say, get out, go be on your way and be free. What I was going to mention about my parents, like, yeah, I did have parents that had a lot of expectations and they wanted good things for me, like all parents do, right? You know, uh, but they gave me a lot of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
They did give me they probably wouldn't think that this is what I'd be thankful for, but I am thankful for the freedom that they gave me. They let me go. They weren't afraid to lose me in a way, to go out there and explore and find your way, so I think because of that, which they probably don't realize this, that they've actually been quite supportive in how I found myself. I wasn't raised religious. I didn't know what, I just thought Christianity is the only religion. I honestly was that like clueless. I thought, oh, the Baptist church right there, that's the answer,
The beginning and the end.
The beginning, the end. I'll go in there and that'll just sort my whole life out. So that's how it began. And then when I'm in the Baptist church, I'm like, okay, wait a second. Why are the Pentecostals saying the completely opposite thing? Wait a second. Let's go over there. And did that, and went to all of them. Like, I swear I've probably been to every single church here in Hamilton. I didn't have parents that said, well, you got to be a Catholic, or you got to be a Baptist, or you got to do this, or they actually didn't even understand what the heck I was doing going into church. But they thought, and I heard my dad say more than once, if this is working for you and it's good, then, I'm glad that it's working for you. So did that for years, but actually, that alone is just, it was helping me. There's definitely positive stuff with religion, but because there is this inconsistencies between one religion to another, again, you're confused, know. And because of, for me, I feel like I am so driven to really, like fine tune myself. I don't want to just accept it that, oh, everybody accepts that, so I'm going to accept it too. It's like, no, I want to know why that's acceptable, and if it couldn't find an answer, and believe me, I started going up to pastors and they'd be like,
We're not used to people coming and asking us these questions. Just go ahead and sit out there and be quiet and then leave again.
Yeah, just kind of like how you're raised, right? You just don't question anything. You just do it and you just move along. So after about 15 years, I'm this whole time still actually in a pretty decent depression, honestly. I'm still not happy. I'm just kind of coasting along through life. And, I mean, I think that's kind of humanity. We're really not ever content, are we? We get to a certain place, even if we we accomplished that big thing we really wanted to do. It's like, okay, now what?
Right.
You're always wanting to get to that next level, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, like that's humanity. We are wheel. We have to keep turning. We don't like being like this. I'm not doing anything. It's like, so
So
I got,
let me
yeah.
interrupt and ask a couple clarifying questions. At around age 25, you kind of went on what you said is about a 15-year journey of going to different religions and churches and kind of exploring and trying to find what felt like your truth, and yet all of them were helpful in some ways, but in other ways, it was just like adding to the confusion. You were getting clarity about lots of little pieces of it, but the big picture clarity was still
It
elusive.
still wasn't enough. I still didn't get so much of it. And
Mm,
it was basically how you titled this talk. It's spirituality gone wild, because I was still a rebel, I was still wild, and I just went wild in religion.
mm,
So after about 15 years, of the Christianity, running around in that for a while, I decided to, this light bulb all of a sudden goes on, and I'm like, wait a second, this guy Jesus, he's Jewish. So it's like,
and I encourage you to go to Shannie's website, ShannieAlvarez.com, and the tagline or the heading of it is "A Gentile with a Jewish Heart." So you have really, you became like you explored Judaism, and like after this 15 years of like searching around in the Christianity world, which is all you knew from your upbringing, but then you went and explored all the different flavors and versions of it. Then you went into started thinking about Judaism.
so yeah. So then that's, and I mean, believe me, I had a little bit of resistance from all of the Christians out there. What are you doing? You're not, like, you're gonna lose Jesus. You need to be saved. Come here, let us do the sinner's prayer for you. You need to figure things out, Shady. You're losing it again. And like, it surprises me, because I think, because I pretty much lost myself. It's like, things can never get any worse, like, let's just give it a try. So
Mhm.
I ended up going to a synagogue for like 4 years, and I didn't just pick the conservatives or the liberals. I went straight for the gusto. I went Orthodox. And I
Mm,
walked in there, with all the black hats and the ringlets and the, and all of that, and no cell phones, no lights, no, this and that. And you know what? The most spiritual place I've ever been to,
mhm,
it was unreal. I loved it. And honestly, that rabbi talking, I'm like, he sounds like Jesus, you
mm,
know. And then I realized, whoa, this is really different, you know. Like, so there's this whole other, as confusing as it is for the Gentiles and all of the different religions that we have, which I've just explored even that much more since, which I see them all meshing in, just so beautifully, as we are having these kind of conversations like you and I are, Steve. Let's just put the religion on the shelf now and realize we are all saying the exact same thing, you
mm,
know? And, you know, um, yeah. So when I wrote my book, let's just go back to We Are One. It was at first a book about me. I had this overwhelming feeling to just all of a sudden vent about my experience, how I almost killed myself, and this darkness to light, and how life is just, you know, going to the dump, you know, so I was kind of it was kind of written out of passion and anger, you know, and I'm like, I'm calling it I am one, because I am one with God. I'm going to get through this, you know. And then I'm just like, this poetry just kind of poured out of me, and it was all about love, you know, and love the other, love the other, you know, like that's the big message in We Are One, love the other. And it's not just love, you know, your neighbor, you know, it's not about loving the same as you. It's not about loving the same as you. It's about loving the opposite of you. So
Mhm.
even the darkness, you're in a love relationship with it. So that challenge that life has for you, that's your wheel. It's burning you, you know, it's pushing you ahead, just further out there to a bigger, deeper self, you know. So we have a love relationship with all of these opposites in the world. You know, the light to darkness is the one big one. But the other one that God's, because it's an image, God says we are created in his image. Everything is an image, and everything that's an image, that's God. We are trying to overcome and find, you know, I mean, like we are, humanity is both. We are darkness and light. God is only light. We are trying to identify with the light. So we don't want to be darkness, but we want to use the darkness to be the light, you know. And that's the same with all of the other ones. Like we're very, very physical beings, but we're trying to understand the opposite, the spiritual, you know. So we use the physical to drive us to understand the spiritual. It's like the man and the woman relationship. That's why my book's all full of this, you know, love, 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 love. But
Right.
then I realized that there's a bigger, deeper message with my book, which I could even, you know, talk about, you know, but that's like a whole other big discussion, and it's between the Jews and the Gentiles.
Well,
You know,
let's
yeah,
let me reframe this idea for you, or for the listeners. You know, your book has, you know, three different main relationships that you want to talk about. The first one is the relationship between you, the individual, and God. And
right.
you've been talking quite a bit about that. You just alluded to the other two, and that would be man and woman
Right.
relationships.
Right.
And then the third one would be the Jews and the Gentiles, which is,
Yeah.
you know, really quite fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, in the United States, we and probably in Canada, you know, they talk about Judeo-Christian foundation of what the, you know, the country was founded upon. And so the Judeo and the Christian, very much a connection, and yet separated. What you're doing is you're like saying, hey, wait a minute, like let's bring these back because they're really the same darn thing.
Yeah, you know, and it's not to be religious, but it's about using religion, like all of religion,
Mm,
basically. And let's just talk, because all of the religion is saying the same thing, but we
mhm.
don't want to talk with each other. You know, like I still, even as much as I've been in the Jewish world, would love to just have this sort of banter, you know, where we can just talk. And for sure, you know, I have tons of Jewish friends, you know, but it's still, I feel like this barrier, like religion is keeping us kind of at bay, you know. And it's not just, it's all religion, you know, Christians, and Muslim, it's all of us, you know. Like I really, really love what's happening in the world with the Spiritual Communities Network, and where I met you. You know, like I see now, like you know, your background's Christian, so you probably really identified with some of the stuff that I said, and some of my poetry. You know, but most of us all, even if we don't have that Christian or Jewish or Muslim background, it's so big in the world, we all kind of identify with it to some extent anyways, you know. Yeah, but you know, but we're not, like you said, we're just not sitting down and just, hey, let's just, you know, let's just talk about whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Let's get to know each other, because there's something we can learn from each other in our differences, you know.
The religions in many ways have divided us, right? It's you know, like the Christians thought they were right, the Muslims thought they were right, and you know, wars and wars have been fought for millennial.
There is a war going on in Israel right now. I don't know if you know that. They're firing rockets over there right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is not good. This is not good. This is not what people want. But somehow either the political leaders or the religious leaders have you know, taught us. But individually, you know, we don't want this sort of thing. I love the message of love that you're talking about, and peace and getting along and talking about it, because ultimately we all are saying the same thing. Individually, you know, we all kind of want the same thing. And yet another awakening that I didn't even mention in my monologue is the realization in 2014, two simple little phrases that just like hit me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the truth. We are all connected and there are no coincidences. You know, we are all connected to each other. And that's how you know, that's what God is, right? We're all connected. So when we see each other, we see the God, and I see the God in you, you see the God in me. And then once you understand that, and once you see that, then how can you disagree, or how can you, you know, not be accepting and loving?
Yeah.
And then the idea of coincidences, where there are no coincidence. It's not a coincidence that you and I met. It's, you know, it was meant to be. And it doesn't mean that there's a God with like divine pulling the strings, like we're all puppets down here on earth. But it's again, we come in and we connect with each other so that we can teach each other lessons and advance our own thinking and our own contrast, our own beliefs and clarifying thoughts. This is important for me to talk every day, like a little monologue where I get to kind of say what I believe. You're in your book, and what you're doing today, Shannie, is you're expressing yourself, and you're getting more and more clarity. And I love that. And I'm just grateful that you're here sharing it. So I'll let you go.
Well, I don't know really what else, like, you know, there is so much now that I can say about everything. But you know, I feel like kind of my book, everybody that has picked it up, I don't care what religion you have, or if you even don't have a religion, I've had nothing but positive reviews about it, that everybody identifies with it, you know, because yeah, it's all, we're all the same. We're all human, and we're all experiencing the exact same things, you know, yeah. So
let me just react to the book a little bit, because there's so I'm raised Catholic, 12 years of Catholic school, and I have a friend who's Jewish, and he just said something like not so long ago in the last few months. He said, how come the Catholics never read the Bible? How come they don't know it? And I'm like, you know, I don't know, but I knew that I never really read the Bible. So, but I heard biblical phrases, you know, from going to church. And so you heard all of the biblical phrases, or at least the big ones, the main ones, but never really read the Bible in terms of understanding it. So your book has some of those biblical phrases in it, interspersed. And really, they are the core truths, the nuggets of what a spiritual life, a spiritual life that we're living, where love and God is present on a day in and day out basis. And it's kind of like, you know, so you connected a lot of dots that way for me. So I sure appreciated hearing it. And you know, I just think it's an interesting, and I want to comment on, you said that you started the book about like going to be my journey about like, and my phrase, not what you said, like what a bitch life has been here. and yet there wasn't that at all. So you did some editing, and you cleaned it up, and you actually teased those ideas a little bit, that I wanted to know more about the, well, how did this all, what was this journey that you went on? Because you just really alluded to it. You didn't, you didn't go into this. It wasn't like you were throwing up on the page, diverging all the details and woe is me and life's been tough type of thing. It's been like, but yet I came away knowing that, this has been a challenge for you. And it's a long journey. It's not like you figured this out like a light bulb, went off. You've been at this for like 20 or 25 years in terms of trying to figure out what is the meaning of this whole life and this journey. So
I don't really I am a sensitive person, I think, and I'm a lot of it, I think, is just my personality, and maybe it's even my horoscope, Sagittarian. I don't know. Like, I just want to. I am a skeptic. It doesn't seem like I'm maybe a skeptical person. See, that's why I'm searching for answers in everything, from everybody, from all the, different religions out there. Let's hear what they all have to say. Let's put us all in a big room and let's just talk, no firing bombs off at each other or anything. Like, just, because we're all the same. We're all capable of doing a lot of bad things, and we're all capable of doing a lot of good things. I kind of feel like what's happening in this world is really something I've already identified with in myself, which all of us, I'm nobody special. We're all feeling this. We can all feel what we've struggled within ourselves, our own darkness is happening now externally outside of us. And it's really all of our darkness that's created this darkness, and how I see us now in this time, and what's happening. I do really believe we are in an end time right now. I think a lot of people are probably feeling like that too, but I don't feel like it's an end time, like apocalypse, like you see typically in the movies, like, as like a dreary. I'm not on the side. Like, it's kind of weird because most people are like, they're really having a hard time with what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people are feeling like how I had felt in the past, but I just want to encourage people that this is not a bad thing. What's going on in the world, look at it as a good thing, because it's pushing us to understand the light, to understand the goodness, and really it's understanding that opposite. We got to get out of our dark self, get into the light, and understand that we are all the light. Don't kind of have this attitude, well, so he, littered on the ground, so guess what? I'm littering on the ground. We got to do the opposite, and we got to push against it, even if everybody else isn't. And we just got to keep doing that and believing in it. And we will rehab this world. That's the plan. I know we're going to fix it, and it's going to be beautiful, and we're going to go back to Eden. That's the big story.
I like your optimism and your encouragement.
Very optimistic.
Yeah, but think about it. Like, we've been all along. We've been trying to be good citizens. We've been doing what people have been telling us to do. We've followed our religions. We followed our governments, and ultimately we're at a point where there's an awful lot of things that aren't working very well. And now, on an individual level, we're going, wait a minute, this is not working. So listening to the people that kind of brought us to this chaos doesn't seem to be like the right way to go. What you had said is like, like, let's take let's just take control of our own lives, and let's just do what's the right thing to do. And yes, if someone else is littering, then that's their choice, but I'm not going to litter. And we're going to start fixing things little by little in our own communities. And we actually are wise people. We know how to fix these things, and sitting around waiting for someone else to fix it is feeling like a not a very good idea anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think it's anybody's, you can get really upset too at all of the corrupt systems. There's systems that are corrupt.
Right.
But it's because everything is corrupt. It's corruption, and we all know it. I think we all really want this goodness, but we just don't know how to have it. So, instead of just being angry about everything and just kind of giving up on it all, just within yourself, that's where it starts, from that person, yourself, and you'll find a peace within yourself. Just changing having that awareness. It's really having an awareness, and you are actually now standing in the light instead of in the dark. And it doesn't mean that I'm always in the light, because for sure I get sucked back in all the time, and I'm an angry person, like I think that's what caused my depression. I don't like all of this chaos, so, you got to just kind of, you learn to deal with it. You just kind of, it's like me too, just if I can say one last thing about being a nurse. Okay. I struggled with being a nurse, because I like, just kind of how I said, when I grew up, there's this responsibility I have. And they expect me to perform perfection. Okay. Like, the expectation is over the top. They want me to deliver perfection in a system that's corrupt. Like, the system is corrupt. The government, like everything that to go into my job, everything's not really working perfectly, but I gotta give perfection. Now, how do I do that? And I struggle with it. Because when I walk into my job, I have no idea what I'm going to get. You might walk into your job and know your job, because it's not really going to be much different than yesterday. But for me, my patient's different. My patient has a different kind of medical problem, and they're a completely different person, so they deal with it a different way. So I never know what I'm going to get. And I never know how the system is going to be either helping me or it's going to be oppressing me in some sort of way, but I am learning, and this is something that I'm learning. It's not easy. I'm still struggling with it, how to deal with the darkness and use it to my advantage, to find some strength in it. And it's a little bit of an art, because you can't just go out there and just kind of, just blow your top, or just lose it, or just say, you know what, I quit. I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore. You have to learn to get along in it all in a very, and you have to learn how to, communicate, express, ask for help, explain to people what's going on, explain to people how it makes you feel. We have to fight. We still have to be fighters. We can't just sit and just kind of like, okay, well, I'm just going to watch those bombs go over my head. You have to kind of be proactive and want to see something, better go for the world. And I'll keep quiet, but just to encourage us that, I truly believe that we are going to, there's this energy that is definitely rising up in the world too, along with the darkness, and it's a good energy, and we are going to, God is stronger than the darkness, And we have to believe in that, and believe in that in ourselves. So I guess I'll stop with that.
Shannie Alvarez is the author of We Are One, and you can get the book at shanniealvarez.com, or you can learn about it. And you want to offer something to people if they're interested in the book?
If you guys are interested in a book, I can send you a free copy. Just message me through my website, your email address, and I'll be happy to send you an e-copy, no problem. Yeah,
and if you're a person who enjoys some inspired writing, I think I mentioned earlier to Shannie off the air that I felt like it was like almost like parts of it I was like reading like a download from source energy. I wasn't reading what Shannie was writing, Shannie's words. It was like coming from that higher source spirit God. Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's amazing actually that you see that, because it definitely was. And because there's some stuff I wrote in there that honestly didn't even make sense to me. And now it does. Now it does. In the garden, that would be one. And maybe another time we can talk about some other stuff, but yeah.
Tell me about these wild hairdos that this man and woman have. Looks like trees growing out of their head. What's going on there, Shannie?
Okay, so it's a bit of a story. Do we have time?
Well, you got like 1 minute.
Okay, well, I'll do the short version. There were two trees in the garden. Okay, in that perfect garden, there were two trees. There was the tree of life, which I think is the man. And there is the tree of good and evil, of knowledge, which I believe is the woman. And there's a big story about that. If you want to have me on another time, I'll be happy to explain it all.
Well, very good. Well, this was fun. Yeah, we'll get you scheduled again. We'll come back and we won't necessarily, tell, but there's enough conversation. You're enough of a thinker. You're enough of a light that you're wanting to share, that I think that this conversation can continue. So I would love to have you back again. Although, what's the one rule about song? What's the one rule about song?
Okay, so what are you gonna have? Like, there won't be a song for me now, or
no song. It's just you get the song the one time. So anyway. Unless you become like a regular guest host, and in which case then we'll make your own theme song, Shannie. So.
Okay. Oh, I'd like to work on that one maybe.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Go to shanniealvarez.com, and if all you have to do is send a message, reach out and tell her you want to read the book, and she'll gift a copy of it to you, and you can read it. So there you go. How's that for a nice offer? So thank you.
And thank you so much, Steve, for this and for putting this together. That's awesome.
All righty. Well, thank you. And look forward to talking to you again. Thank you so much, Shannie.
Okay. Thank you.
All righty. Well, there's Shannie Alvarez, shanniealvarez.com. Go ahead and message her if you'd like to get a copy of her book. She'll gift you one. All righty. Well, that is pretty much it for today. Oh, yeah, we have Dawn. Dawn is mentioning this, but go ahead. Hey, Dawn, I'm going to put your message up there so Shawnee can see it. She said, I love a copy, but go ahead and just, reach out and email her directly. That way we'll make sure that you get it. All righty. Very good. And Susan just sends some love here. I'm not sure if I know Susan, so she must be a friend of Shawnee. So that's wonderful that she joined in and is sharing her love of the interview. So, alrighty, well, that's what's happening today. Now, tomorrow, I have Diana Dameron going to join us here on the American Gumption Morning Show, and we're going to do the disc profile. And she's going to, I now know what my disc profile is because she shared it with me, but I'll reveal that tomorrow, and we'll talk all about what the disc profile is and how it helps people who work together so they can get along and communicate better, just like Shannie and I were talking about. How do you communicate better with people? That's what it's all about. So Diana And the disc profile is a tool that you can use to help you understand better who you are and who your coworkers are. And that's tomorrow's show. All righty. Well, have a great rest of your day, everybody. I sure appreciate people joining in, and we will see you tomorrow.